Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And today what we're going to be doing is diving into part 2 of our series with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel with Texas Turnkey Properties. Anthony, what can our listeners look forward to in this episode?
Well, part 1 was more about their story, which I think is very important. Whenever you're going to work with somebody, like to me, I want to know the man and the woman behind the scenes, right? Kind of what and why they are doing this. But the second part to me is more of the exciting stuff. This is where we're going to talk more about some numbers. And what I think is very interesting is real estate can be a great asset class, particularly if you want to create financial freedom. And that's because you're getting that passive income, right? It's very difficult to get passive income from the stock market, right? But in addition to passive income with real estate, there's a lot of tax advantages. There is the depreciation, right? When you do sell it, it's going to be taxed at a capital gain rate, which is the lowest rate. And typically, when those first couple of years with all of that depreciation, you typically may have a loss. And you may be able to use that loss against your ordinary income, which is taxed at the highest rate. So there is a little play in the rates, but also you can buy that asset with leverage and getting a 30-year fixed mortgage. And either way, if you do or don't, as you build up equity, you can leverage that equity to do other things. So real estate can be a great asset class. What would you like to add, Cam?
Yeah, what I would add there is that we've had other turnkey providers on our show, and there's a bunch of them out there across the country. But in addition to kind of analyzing the investment piece to it, the house and those things, there's a whole lot of other pieces that surround that. One of them being kind of the business, like you had talked about, the people that are running it, but also the customer service. And so what I hope people take away from the second half of this is really the amount of effort that these guys are putting into servicing this business, because at the end of the day, it is a business that they're providing for you guys. And so really listen to kind of the effort that they've put into educating their team, and then also the customer service piece to it. We talk about property management and the benefits of having it in-house. These guys actually have different tiers of property management, and so I thought that was interesting, and I hope you guys do too.
One thing I would like to add, I think a lot of our listeners are interested in real estate, and a lot of times maybe you haven't done real estate, and so if you're new to it, just like we talked about in the last podcast with them about partnering and getting a mentor, you can do that with real estate using a turnkey provider. I think that this is a great way to get your feet wet in with real estate. You have a professional management team, but as you go through the process, you can learn things to do and things not to do. So ideally, when you're ready, you can find your own deals. But as you're just getting into it, doing turnkey can be a great way to get started.
And to add something on to your addition is Anthony was just talking about, if you are just getting started, go to these guys' website and look at the blog and the resources that they have. They have tremendous resources and information on if somebody is just getting started, what you need to learn and know about turnkey properties, and also how to analyze different markets. So these guys provide a ton of different resources and education along the way.
Let me add one more thing since you added to me that I added to yours. Enjoy this episode.
Take care.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. We recorded this in late 2020. Thus, when he's talking about this year, he's actually talking about 2020. And thus, when he's talking about next year, it's 2021. Enjoy the episode.
Yeah. So, obviously right now, because of interest rates where they are, investors have really come out of the woodwork. So we completely sold out for this year. We don't have anything to sell right now, but we are, it's always a hard, I have a conversation at least once a day with the client, and I get them all pumped up and excited, and hey, you're gonna have to be on a waiting list. But no, next year we have a lot of coming and a lot of inventory. The big thing for us is we don't start marketing our properties until we have our permits, we've broken ground, clear the lots, set the forms, so that I can give them a realistic closing date. And so we have a lot of lots and stuff in the works for next year, and then stuff coming and inventory. But in Houston, our single families, we built 2 different single family models. We built an entry level affordable home, which is 155,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1140 square foot home that we sell for 155, and it rents for 1275. And then we sell a single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 1673 square foot home that we sell for 185 and rent for 1550. And then we do a duplex. The duplexes are 285. They rent for 1295 a door, and they're 1608 square feet per side, and they're 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So that's Houston. And that's what the bulk you're going to see out of us from Houston.
And I'm sorry. So all those are new construction.
Those are all brand new construction. Yes.
Okay.
And then our remodels, our average sales price is about 150,000 on remodels, and the average rent price is about 1,400. And then in Albuquerque, it's kind of similar. The average, we only do remodels in Albuquerque. The average sales price is 150, and the average rent price is 1,250, 1,295. Why the rent's a little bit less than like Houston is the taxes and insurance rates are less in Albuquerque than they are in Houston. Texas has no state income tax, so where they make up for that is on property taxes. So traditionally, if you look around the country, Texas has high property taxes. And then because of our proximity to the coast, our insurance rates are a little bit higher because we're always a threat of hurricanes. So
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay,
Yeah, and another thing too, to add to that, we do actually have a property tax protester that's on our team. So on every property that the client buys for us, we're protesting the taxes year after year to keep those taxes down.
And then I know it's kind of I led myself into that, and so as far as like insurance and hurricanes, and I like to talk about taxes and insurance because it's the 2 biggest concerns for our clients. So Joni mentioned property taxes. The nice part about new construction is your first year, you're going to pay on land value only. And so your first year, you get a really high cash flow. After that, it's been reassessed at what I submit as my building costs when I submit my permits. So again, it's substantially lower. We're a non-disclosure state. So the county doesn't know what I sold you the home for, or the client. It's not on MLS. They don't know what the sales price is. So they're going to use that value of what I submitted as my construction cost that second year. And then we're going to protest the value every year. It just depends on the comp. I always tell my clients that, if the home keeps appreciating or your house keeps appreciating, you got to expect that the taxes are going to increase too. I mean, the county wants to make their money too. On insurance, your standard insurance policy is going to cover everything but flooding from the ground up. So meaning like hurricane damage or tree falls on it, water breakage, tenant vandalism, all that's covered. It won't cover though flooding from the ground up. Now, we've been on the news, not on wood, not in the last couple of years, but yeah. But
Houston in general.
It's always a threat, and if they invest here, at some point they probably will have a home. If they rent here long enough, at some point they're going to experience like a hurricane coming through or very close. We do not sell any or buy anything in the 100-year or 500-year floodplains. So none of our houses are in a floodplain. Building wise, I'm required to build 2 feet above the nearest manhole. So my houses sit 2 feet above street level. So I've never had an issue with flooding on any of my new construction. And so, but since they aren't in a flood zone, if the client wants to just have that assurance, they can get a flood policy for about $500 a year that will cover flood insurance if they want those additional insurances. So,
I will say, as we were kind of doing our due diligence on you guys, we actually contacted a few of your clients, and one of them, pardon?
Good.
Yeah.
Hopefully good.
It was good, or you wouldn't be on the podcast. Right? I will say they spoke very highly of you, and one guy had 10 properties. I believe through you, I believe he had 10. and one of my questions, well, okay, so what happened with all these hurricanes? And he said, the only thing that happened, one tree fell, and so that was covered by insurance. But that was one of my concerns of being in Houston, because when I think of Houston, well, I think of the Houston Texans, and then,
that's not very good either.
I know, but that's fine because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But but I mean, I've heard the floods, so that is really good to know.
I mean,
as long as you're properly insured. I mean, we've had, trees fall on our properties. There was one that actually needed a new roof. So I was like, yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing with us is we're, again, you're trusting an expert in that market.
Right.
And we value our reputation, and, we depend on repeat sales. And so, like, I'm never going to put a client that they're going to have like issues. So if it's not something I'm willing to take, so I mean, when we're buying properties or buying lots, we're looking at, okay, where's the nearest creeks, where's the reservoirs, because all this water just comes from north and then makes its way down into the sea. And so, where is that all that? We know the areas that constantly flood. So it's particular areas in Houston that flood every major rainstorm or every, and we just stay away from those areas
And like during Hurricane Harvey, that was one of the worst. I mean, we had probably like 10 properties that flooded out of our entire portfolio. I mean, we manage 1,400 homes, so that's.
Yeah. And
really
it's very small. And those aren't ones that we sold. Those are just
right.
ones that we manage for people. So.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, I thought you weren't.
And no, that's for people that we manage for that didn't buy the turnkey, but.
Okay.
So I was going to go to the waiting list. Where you go?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So now, right, you guys have addressed some of the concerns that I had, and so tell me a little bit about this waiting list. How long is it? And
Yeah, it's right now it's about 3 months, so to be realistic.
And how much inventory are you guys expecting to provide for 2021? You said you got a bunch.
So we have 50 duplexes that we're going to build, and then we're going to do roughly about 15 of each of the single family home models. And then usually the remodels, we're doing marketing. We have a presence in the market that, we pick up maybe 1 to 2 remodels a month. So on top of that, so we'll do, just over 100, 125 homes a year. And so, but at least on schedule, we have 50 duplexes and then about 15 of each single family home model.
Okay, now I actually had a couple things popped in my head so far. For one, when we were talking about the price and the rental, and I'm sure you've heard of ongoing rule of thumb is that ideally we want the rent to be 1% of the purchase price. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that I'd like to ask you about, and then also you mentioned the high property taxes. Mm-hmm. So how does that all work? I mean, to me, it's all about the bottom line, but can you address those concerns if somebody wants to have they're following the rule of thumb of the 1%?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think, and that used to be a really good rule of thumb. I don't think it exists anymore today. Now you may be able to find that if you're real aggressive, maybe in the market. I think the places that you will find it are going to be in substandard areas. So
C-class
neighborhoods. C-class neighborhoods. That's great that you're going to get the 1%, but realistically on the end or the bottom line, or once you look after a year of managing it, you probably had a couple turnovers or high maintenance costs. So really, in the end, buying at something that's in a better area, that's new construction, that maybe doesn't hit that 1% rule, but in the end of the day, you might make more money on that one than one that you just looked at the 1% rule. So yeah, it's going to be extremely hard to find in Houston. I think our best, highest returning product is our duplex, and that we sell for $285, and we're getting $25.90 total. So I don't know what that comes out to, but and that's so I would look at that. What's the other thing I was going to say? Do you have anything to
What's
say?
the return on?
8%. Yeah, so about an 8% cash on cash return. shoot, there's something else. Anyways, if it comes back, I'll.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of my questions. The one thing I look at in evaluating a property is what is my cash on cash return?
Mhm.
And that's also taking into account a little bit for vacancy, repairs and maintenance, and capital improvements. So what kind of range would we expect?
Yeah, so I always tell our clients to budget a 4% vacancy allowance and a 4% maintenance allowance. Even though it's new construction, you got a 1-year warranty on the entire building, and then you got like 10 years on the roof, HVAC, structure, foundation. Still budget that, because I mean, at some point, you'll have a maintenance. At least you'll have the reserve set aside. But that's a healthy. So like 8 to 10% of your rent, you should set aside for a vacancy or and maintenance. So is what we recommend.
Okay, what's a typical cash on cash return those first couple of years? Should we?
So cash on cash 7 to 8%. If they're using debt or financing, you're closer to about 10%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And right now, I mean, yes, the majority of, unless they're doing a 1031 and cashing out, like I have a lady right now that she took a duplex in San Jose and sold it for 1.3 million cash, and she owned it free and clear. And is coming buying 5 duplexes with us here, all cash, but and her rent went through the roof, you know, as far as her cash flow. What was going with that? Anyways, she's my only one right now. She's my very few cash buyers out there that we have. Majority are taking advantage of the low interest rates. It's unprecedented time as far, like, we've been in this for 20 years. Our first house was like 8% was our mortgage rate, and that was like awesome at that time. And then even when it got down to 6, I thought that was like just, you know, killing it. And I think people I couldn't fathom paying 6 or 8% for interest today. But so I think now if you can take advantage, it's a great time to use leverage. And you know, we have clients locking in at 3.25 right now on an investment property, which is crazy. So
yeah, why would you not take advantage of that? Not only is it low, you're locking into it for 30 years.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and it's tax deductible.
Yes.
I mean, I know when I got my first house, it was 7%. Cameron's first house, he built himself. It was a tree house. She just paid cash.
You knew that was coming, Cameron.
Yeah.
It was amazing though. 2-bedroom, 3-bath. You guys said something early on that I wanted to touch on. You talked about having a mentor.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe how that came about and maybe the value that you guys got from it?
I mean, I think we've had a mentor really in almost every stage of our career, right? When we first started out, we had, you know, someone kind of holding our hand when we were in college, you know, wholesaling properties, just trying to make it all work. And then, you know, when we moved to Houston, we had a mentor that would help us, you know, scale it. Yeah. And even to today, we have a business coach that comes in. So I think it's extremely important, you know, to have that coach to kind of hold your hand and walk you along the process, and just gives you the confidence.
Yeah, I mean, that first mentor for us, like, he held our hand through those first 6 deals and like put up the money and guided us, and just, you know, I think it's crucial. And all along the way, we've had somebody that we can lean on so we could avoid costly mistakes. But even when we started our own coaching program and mentoring program, you know, back from 2005 to 2010, the key to that thing and how we structured it, even though it was very time intensive for Joni and I, was they had our cell phone numbers, we were partnering on deals, we were that person holding their hand, putting up the money, being there for them. So, you know, they would get an objection from a seller, and then they call us, hey, they said this, what do I need to go and tell them? And we'd go, you know, advise them and walk them through it. But they just need that. And with the contractors, we would usually fly out to their city, find that first set of contractors for them, and it just, you know, negotiate the bids, walk the house. They just need that somebody that's done it before. Mm-hmm. And, you know, once they've done 2 or 3 of them, usually they can start to figure it out. But I think it's crucial. I think you need somebody.
I mean, we've even made mistakes, you know, buying houses, fixing them up, and, you know, and to not have that mentor, I mean, gosh,
I mean, and today we still spend, Joni and I, even though, we've been doing this for 20 years, we still are part of mastermind groups. We spend probably 100,000, at least $100,000 a year in training and mastermind programs, and just so we can get in rooms of people with similar mindsets and similar goals, and makes us think bigger. At this stage, it helps us to think bigger, helps us avoid much bigger, more costly mistakes. And then, and some of it we've done just for life work balance, being in masterminds that we can, because once at some point your business can grow to where it can suck a lot of time, and you got to learn that maybe making money isn't, the all end all, that having a quality marriage and relationship with your kids probably is more important than just making money. So
absolutely, yeah, we value the time with our family, and those are things that we had to, as we had mentors and stuff, like when we get home, it's like we put our phones down. It's all about the family now, and we don't work on weekends like we used to. So
yeah, one of our mentors had told us that kind of coached us and said, because we were trying to manage that work-life balance, and he's like, all right, here's what I want you guys to do is just when you guys get home, put your phones on the hook. And it sounds so simple, or like just like, yeah, I could have done that, but like just it was almost like him just giving us permission to do that. And then one thing he also advised me to do was stop working on Fridays. So just take all Friday off, stay home, use it as my thinking days. So I could read, and I mean, those are just two. And I don't know why I could have done it. I just chose to go to work every day. And so it was those
somebody
two
pushing
things.
you to do that.
Yeah. And I think those dramatically helped. And it was something so simple, but yeah, we had to pay somebody several $1,000s to tell us
to hold us accountable.
Yeah, but it works. But that's great that you guys spend a lot of money for your mentors. Kind of makes me think that I should be charging for the mentorship I'm giving Cameron. But that's a side note. But I would imagine like somebody's going to come to you and say, like, okay, I have this amount of money now, and you know what? I want to buy a house every year or every 2 years. Or do you help develop a plan to guide them on how they can achieve their goals on buying through you?
Yeah. So, I mean, usually we, like when they first, we meet a client, either were introduced to us from somebody or they found out through, our marketing efforts, we'll do a consultation call. So we'll sit down with them, find out their goals, what they're looking to accomplish, put them in touch with lenders that we recommend. So we'll try to, and insurance agents and all that, but we'll try to set them up and set some goals and set some parameters of what it's going to take. So yeah, if they're in growth mode and they want to accumulate, we might recommend, taking that extra cash flow, because a duplex will put out, if you're using financing, about $800 in cash flow a month. So, taking that alongside with them, maybe taking a percentage of their earned income that they're making in their job and set it aside until they build up enough money for another down payment. And then, once a year, they keep doing this. That's what we recommend. Some of them, though, aren't into accumulating more. Maybe they did a 1031 and took all that money from California and put it in several properties here in Houston, and they just want to pay off their debt quicker and retire sooner. So then we might talk about snowballing the debt and the whole Dave Ramsey approach to paying off debt. So yeah, we'll usually in those, and then we do like yearly strategies.
Yeah, we do go over their goals. And another thing too is some of them might not want to put, like I said earlier, all their eggs in one basket. So, and Shawn and I, we know the good turnkey providers out there because, we mastermind together and we, kind of collaborate together. So we'll even go to that extreme to say, hey, look, like these are the good providers because we've already vetted them.
Mostly. And a lot of our clients, over the years too, I think there comes a point where a client might, accumulated enough real estate, but, and they maybe don't want to accumulate anymore, but they're still earning, a decent amount of income and they need somewhere to put it. So, we might recommend like private lending as an option, and just getting a fixed rate of return on their investment. So it's still, and it's secured against real estate. So it's still kind of investing in real estate, but it's a different form. It's just a fixed rate of return. So they can do that with us. They can do that. We've introduced them to some other turnkey providers that we feel would
Give them good service.
yeah,
Mhm.
and we feel comfortable enough to recommend to, that we know their operation, we know that, they're a good company, and we'll protect their money. So we'll make some of those introductions too, if we don't personally need the money.
I would say that there impressed me.
Yeah.
That you obviously, we talk about mindset a lot, and you have that abundant mindset of like, hey, you know what, we understand that you might want to work with some other people, and instead of viewing them as competitors, you're viewing them as it's like client first. We're just helping the client. And
Exactly. That's what it's about. You hit it right there. It's about the client.
Perfect. Now, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out in real estate?
Let you go first.
I mean, I think you really need to, find that mentor, somebody that can guide you in the right direction.
Mhm.
And if you're going to do this yourself, I really think you need to have a real estate team in place, whether it's, finding the deal, you need a realtor, you need a title company, you need lenders, all of those things I think you need to find before.
Yeah, real estate team. I feel so yeah, the team comes first. So finding the team or the mentor to guide you. So maybe whether it's a program like you guys offer or a podcast that you guys produce, I think they can learn there and get their feet wet, and then once they've established a team or maybe the niche they want to head into, and then working with a partnership with somebody that I think can guide them or help take out a lot of the unknowns or the pitfalls that they can fall into. If they're looking for themselves on a personal level, in our company, we mentor all our staff. So a lot of people that come to work for us, they have a passion for real estate. They want to learn it. They want to invest themselves. So we educate and mentor a lot of the people that work for us. Usually it starts off with their own personal residence, and then they move to a rental property and so forth. But one thing that I know, one takeaway that Joni and I would do hands down, if we were to restart everything, from scratch when we were 19 again, we would have bought like duplexes or fourplexes, and we would have moved into one unit, lived in it for a couple of years, and then done it again, and we would have accumulated our portfolio that way. And it doesn't work for everybody because sometimes the fourplexes or duplexes aren't in the area you want to work. Or I think as young people today, everybody wants to show off and I got this new house, new construction and all that. And taking your friends over to a duplex or a fourplex might not look as attractive or as sexy. But if you can hey, these three people are paying for this entire building. I don't pay rent, I don't have to pay a mortgage because their three are paying. I think it would shift the mindset maybe, but that's how I would restart all over again if I could. So
yeah, I think self-development also is key. You really have to. I mean, Shawn and I are big on continuing to learn, developing ourselves, and I think you have to get your mindset right.
Reading books, listening to podcasts, are huge for us. So
speaking of self-development, is you guys have a podcast, right? Inside the Wolf Den. And I've been listening to it on episode 18. Right, nice. You guys talked about how you guys have started to try to teach some of your kids lessons about money and life lessons. Is there some advice you might have for married couples that have got some young kids? Maybe share your kids' ages and some of the lessons that you've tried to teach them lately.
Yeah, I mean, we try to reward let's start off. We read books that have that same mindset. So Tim Bratz has a new book line that
Legacy Library, which is, it's great. So
it's a great one to start reading. So that what Tim is doing, him and his wife, Tim is a big multifamily unit guy, an educator. He is taking the books, so like The Richest Man in Babylon, and those fundamental books, and he is getting the same concepts and purposes that were taught in those books, but making them applicable to children and telling new stories. So that's a good one to read. Andy Bashilla, the Firstborn. He has a kid's book line that it talks about it. His books are more mindset geared. So like a winning mindset, we play to win, not just to get a trophy for participation kind of attitude. And so those kind of mindsets. So Joni and I are, we'll teach our kids and we sit down and talk to them about the properties and like go over the numbers. So what was it, 4 years ago?
Yeah, so they both have, rental property themselves. And so we teach them the value of, collecting rent. And it's funny, I think it was last Christmas, like our son was like, hey mom, has our tenant paid, it was his November, like, like, hey mom, has our tenant paid rent yet? And I'm like, well, why are you asking? We never asked this. And I realized it was because it was Christmas time and he wanted, to buy his cousins gifts, but, teaching them that. So yeah, and in our household, we don't allow our kids to say, I can't, if they say I can't, well, until you can tell me how you can do it and ways to figure out how you can, then don't come and talk to me, and so just little things like that. And just recently, so our entire organization, we actually, again, Shawn and I are big on self-development. And so our company, we are doing Grant Cardone University. And so there's, different modules in there for, a lot of it's sales driven, but everything is sales. We know that, even in property management, everything is, we try to teach our entire organization this, but what I'm getting at is that they have like 100 ways to stay motivated. And so with our son, I'll have him watch those videos, we'll give him like an allowance for every video that he does. So, just little things like that.
Nice. How old are they?
6 and 10.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Mine are 10, 8, and 6. My son's the oldest, and I got 2 girls. And we recently got the Tuttle twins books.
Oh.
I don't know if you're familiar, if not, but it's a great series. And same thing, I gave them an incentive. And the oldest, the 10-year-old, I said, hey, if you read a book and you do a little video and give me a report and answer these discussion questions, I'll give you $5 for every book. And so he's working his way through that.
Yeah, that's a great way to keep him motivated.
Yeah, every time he needs to scan for Fortnite or whatever game he's playing.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm ready with the report. But I was just curious how you guys are doing it.
Yeah, and then sport. I think Joni and I are both we're super competitive people, but and we both played sports growing up. So I think sports can teach a lot. There's the right coaches and all that, but I think Joni and I learned a lot of our work ethic and learning to fail, but and
not quitting
and all that is through sports. And so I think sports can offer a lot of that as well.
So what sort of topics do you address on your podcast?
It's entrepreneurship, obviously, we love the mindset, so we do a lot of that as well.
Yeah, but working, some entrepreneurship is the front of it, real estate investing, and then working with your spouse, working as a husband and wife, scaling your company. What else?
Property management.
Yeah, so a lot of it's real estate and investing focus, and then also building and running small to medium-sized businesses, while also managing life and relationships. So relationship with your wife, kids. So it's a little bit of everything, but
and a lot of times it'll be like, man, like we were going through something this past week, or this would be a great episode for it, So
yeah. So the last episode we just recorded was on masterminds. So you had mentioned about education. We had just gotten back from a mastermind, so we talked about the importance of joining masterminds, whether it's business, fitness. We just talked to the advantages and positive aspects of being a part of a mastermind. So.
I think it's great that your podcast is diverse. It's not just all about real estate; it's about mindset, working together, about other topics. Because I know Cameron's been trying to push us to talk about some other topics, and he wanted to do like a podcast on different hair products. I don't know if that's going to work, but what you guys are doing is working. Like I even learned that you were a wrestler, Joni.
I was. I thought.
There
Did we put that up in the podcast?
We probably did. You probably did.
Oh man, there was some.
No, it was you, Joni. It was
Oh,
you.
was it?
And I mean, we're on the podcast. You can't see Joni, but you don't look like a wrestler.
No.
Like Shawn, I can see Shawn being a wrestler,
Yeah.
right?
I'm feisty.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah, she's I won't go there. She has long legs, so she can get you and lock you up, and that's a whole nother.
So
We're getting
where
off
can people
topic.
find you? So if somebody wants more information, they want to listen to the podcast, what's the best place they can go to?
So you can go to insidethewolfsden.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Joni Wolfswinkel.
I'm on Instagram. You're also Joni Wolfswinkel. I'm Shawn the Wolf, and it's something that to highlight. Joni just went published today. So
Yes.
Joni has a new book that's on Amazon today. So if you guys could check it out.
Yeah, it's called The Choice Is Yours: Balancing Success as a Wife, Mom, and Entrepreneur. So it's kind of my story. Struggles and challenges I went through growing up. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth like Shawn was. It's I think it's a women empowerment book. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and your wives. It's a good read. So and it shares to I think the struggles that women face and the challenges that they have to overcome that maybe we don't.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. Well, we will make sure that we have the links to the podcast and to your book in the show notes.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for your time. Really appreciate it. And look forward to getting this out there for our listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having us on here today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys.
It's our pleasure, and go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.